Hello, everyone, and welcome to OST Live, a weekly broadcast on blockchain branded tokens and token economies built on OST. Simple Token, also known as OST, is a public blockchain platform that allows businesses to launch their very own branded tokens. And the team here has been working very hard to make that happen for businesses to be able to integrate a branded token into the user base of millions of users. And it's not an easy task. And on this episode, we're going to be discussing our latest release of the OpenST protocol, which is 0.9.4. And with us today, we have team members that are going to discuss different aspects of this update. It may seem like it's a lot to take in at first, and we're here to break it down for you. So, guys, welcome to OST Live.
Hey, Jose.
Hi, Jose.
Hi.
So we have Ben, Rachin, Kedar, and Pro. Can you guys? We'll go one by one. I guess we'll start with Ben. Can you introduce yourself, your role at OST, and your involvement with this project update?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Ben. I co-founded OST together with the core team, and I try to lead most of the blockchain design. So the speccing out the architecture when it comes to the contracts, both for OpenST Protocol and for OpenST Mosaic. And then today we released OpenST Protocol. And that's what we'll discuss here. But most of the credit and hard work goes out to the team here, and that's why I'm joined by Kedar, Rachin, and Pro.
Great. And Pro?
Hey, I'm Pro. I'm a senior blockchain engineer in OST, and I'm working closely with Ben and blockchain science team, concentrating on the contract development part. And in the current release 0.9.4, I've been mostly working with OpenST contracts, which we will dive deeper later during this call about what is it.
Great. So Ben and Pro are from our Berlin office, and we also have team members from our Pune office, which is Rachin and Kedar. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey, Jose. I'm Rachin. My designation is Senior Director Engineering, Pune. Apart from leading front-end team, I contribute towards development of all Node.js apps. In OpenST 0.9.4, I'm part of interaction layer team that owns OpenST.js and has developed examples around it.
Hey, hi, Jose. I'm Kedar. My designation is Lead Software Engineer. I own all the backend apps that power OpenST Kit. And along with it, I contribute to all the OpenST projects. In OpenST 0.9.4, I'm part of the interaction layer, which owns OpenST.js, and also we developed examples around it.
Great, and I want to, congratulate you guys, you four joining us today, but also the team at OST that worked really hard to get this through, and we're on schedule with our roadmap. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, and huge congratulations to the OST team for achieving this milestone. So let's start with discussing OpenST 0.9.4 and what this update means. Ben, can you walk us through what problems OST was trying to solve with 0.9.4?
With 0.9.4, we want. It's a big milestone because we've had a natural progression leading up to this point. And what we focus on with 0.9.4 is really both opening up the technology that we've been building before. So that means that both the end users own their crypto keys, but we'll talk about more what that means. But also that the business is building on OST and OpenST technology, that they can develop their own logic for their specific application, aside from what we would already provide, but that there's an open development area for innovation to happen. And so for us, this is a really big milestone Maybe I can spend a few words on like how we got here, sort of where we started. So a year ago now, we started OpenST and we released 0.9.0, the first version, where the protocol allowed you to move transactions off of Ethereum mainnet so that we would get to scalability. Then shortly after end of 2017, so December of 2017, we released 0.9.1 and then 0.9.2 early 2018 or early 2000, where we bundled the whole protocol into OST Kit. And OST Kit really allowed developers to build their own app integrating the protocol. And we used it for 3 hackathons with more than 150 developer teams. They've been building on OpenST. Some external partners have moved early projects already to mainnet for early tests. But what we do with 0.9.4 is really open this technology up for custom token rules and for the end users to hold their keys. And then
Great. So there's been a lot leading up to 0.9.4. So Ben, what are some things that 0.9.4 introduces?
So there's 3 key components to to the 0.9.4 release. On the contract side, there is what we call a TokenHolder contract. It addresses the user experience of wanting mainstream users to interact with blockchain. If you have to manage your private keys directly, that is a very cumbersome and risky enterprise. And so we design smart contracts that make it easy for users to manage their private keys. And again, we'll expand on that. The second part is what we call TokenRules, which is a framework that application developers can then use to design specifically for their application what the incentives are that they would want, and write a smart contract and plug that into this framework to design tokens that are custom tailored, if you could say, to their application. And then the important third part is that we've also built OpenST.js now, and that's really the SDK for developers to build on top of this whole framework. It is sort of the crown jewel of where everything comes together, and so we definitely welcome developers to start looking at it. It's the first release of it, and we welcome all feedback to make it better. It's also where we will start building future products now on, like a user client and a user wallet and the OST wallet we will also build on top of OpenST.js. So it's really sort of the pinnacle of all the effort coming together.
Great, and I just want to highlight one point that you brought up, which is the mass market key management, and I think that's one point that led up to this update because apps are, it's not easy to provide key management, let alone let their millions of users manage private keys. It can get hectic. So Rachin, can you walk us through? There's been a lot of work done before this release. So can you walk us through where we started a year ago with 0.9.0 and sort of the highlights of the updates of each release?
Sure. So with 0.9.0, we presented a proof of staking crypto assets on Ethereum towards minting branded tokens on public sidechains. With 0.9.1, we enabled software developers to build applications on OpenST, and we intended to further the protocol. Now with 0.9.2, we enabled transfers between branded token holders and provided REST APIs for OpenST. With 0.9.3, we kind of decentralized the gateway between the Ethereum chain and the OpenST auxiliary chains. thereby enabling any actors to move ownership across gateways. That would actually transform value tokens on Ethereum into utility tokens on the utility sidechains. With the OpenST 0.9.4, I think Ben has already covered that we have like three major components like token holder, token rules, and custom rules. So these, in a sense, this release is different than others in a sense that this release really focuses on the economy part of the whole infrastructure. This OpenST as a framework itself, it's not necessarily to run on a side chain. It can independently run on the main chain or any chain for that matter. But what it gives is it gives us a safe sandbox where economy owners can write their custom rules, and token holders can safely perform these actions which the custom rules allow them facilitate them to do. With ephemeral keys, there are also problems that that solve the whole consumer app things. We'll discuss that more in detail.
Great, and thanks for providing that. Token rules is definitely a huge push towards enhancing the creation of a token economy. So there are a few things that were mentioned here. And Pro, you were in charge of, you were involved with the OpenST contracts. So let's start from the beginning. Can you first explain, before we explain all the other contracts, I just want to, I think a refresher would help of what is a smart contract?
Not going into the technicality too much, a smart contract is a program that will sit in a blockchain on Ethereum, and it will actually run trustlessly. So basically, there is no centralized authority that can actually stop smart contract to run, and there are conditions that smart contract will have in it. And when these conditions are met, then it will execute the code without waiting or being dependent or being controlled by any authority. So that's why it allows to define many different type of contracts, like escrow type of contracts, in a way that all parties will be sure that it is going to be executed trustlessly, so basically without any dependency.
Great. So it is trustless. So essentially, you put roles or what you want to put on the contract, and it's going to execute, and it's not reversible.
Exactly. Anything anything executed and stored in a blockchain is irreversible, so you cannot move back in a way.
Great. And now as we get into the token holder contracts and token rules contracts, let's move on next to the OpenST contracts. What is an OpenST contract?
OpenST contracts are a collection of the contracts that allow the application developers to build token economies on top of it, just to say like concisely. And there are like a key contract in the token. The key contracts in the OpenST contract. Those are the token holder, token rules, and in general like a custom rules.
So let's break those down one by one. Let's start with token holder contracts. Can you break that down for us?
Okay, token holder contract from like not implementation wise, but conceptually it's a multi-sig contract. So it's going to, and there are like multiple ownership keys which are kept in different wallets, but they are owned by the same economy actor. So basically it allows.
No, it's very good, but it's a bit technical.
Okay.
or jargon specific, I think.
Okay, so token holder contract, I think allows two things. So it's like a first thing, it's actually keeping the token of the of its own owner, and as these ownership keys belongs to the owner is having its own token, and also it define a way that it's going to keep an authorized ephemeral keys, which are authorized by the owner. As I already told, it's a multi-sig, so it's like a security. So once these ephemeral keys are authorized in a token holder, then from the application, from where the ephemeral key was generated and authorized in a token holder, from the application developer can sign an executable transaction or like an intent, and the executable transaction will be signed by the ephemeral key, passed to the token holder, and in the executable transaction, there will be a rule which is going to be executed by token holder, and then rule at the end will contact with token rules. I'm trying not to go into the
I thought that was great. So sort of to reiterate this, let me pull up. So essentially allows users. So if a user has a wallet, it comes with a private key. It allows a user, but from a higher level perspective, you have token economy creator or manager that has the ability to manage a user's. Maybe I'm phrasing this wrong.
So let me put this in context. Consumer apps. So see, no one expects all consumer apps users to actually carry their crypto keys with them all the time, or fund their crypto keys with the base currency for gas for signing and executing transaction. Introduction of ephemeral keys enables the end users to authorize multiple keys in their different devices. It also enables them to sign transactions which can execute token rules, the custom rules that have been provided by the company. It also enables to revoke and rotate their ephemeral keys or session keys, and also revoke them when they're lost or compromised. In other words, end users don't really have to worry about managing these keys anymore because they have limited spending power. They do not hold any value, and be it tokens or be it base currency. And if these keys are lost or compromised, they can be easily revoked, and new ones can be easily authorized.
Exactly. And so, so taking a step back, if you would, people lose their phones, they lose their passwords, and in a blockchain economy, that would be catastrophic. And so that's why the token holder contract exists. It cannot be lost. It's always there. It's always available on the chain. And so what it allows you to do as a user is that you would have a key on your phone, and you would have a key on your iPad. You would have a key maybe written down on a piece of paper in your drawer. And if you would lose any of them, then you can recover access to the tokens, because the token holder contract will always be there for you. It cannot be lost, and you can have redundancy across multiple devices. And then, as Rachin very nicely explained, we want to have a nice user experience from within the app, and the user shouldn't be trusting the app developer. So that's why the user can authorize what we call an ephemeral key. It's a session key and it can authorize that key, and it's stored within the application that it's using. So for example, we have Unsplash as our key partner company. Within the Unsplash app or within the Unsplash browser session, you would generate a private key. You would authorize that, and then now you can actually do transactions on the blockchain directly with the tokens that are held by the token holder contract. But if you log out of that session, the key is revoked, and it's no longer of any use. So it's effectively a session management system built on top of a multi-sig smart contract, so that you have redundancy and you can lose your login, your password. Which is an important barrier that as a community, as a blockchain community, we need to succeed at, because otherwise we cannot onboard millions or more new users. They will have very high expectations on usability, and they can't be asked to never forget their password effectively, right? So we need to address those problems.
Great. So it adds sort of a consumer level expectation of being able to recover your account if you do lose your phone or access to those keys. So is the ephemeral key, is that what allows a user to store the key in different devices?
So the ephemeral key, we can call it a session key, is really when you're logged into the application and you're making actions. Maybe you're liking someone else's post, or you're saying thank you, or you're explicitly even buying something. You would do all those actions with a session key that you've authorized with your wallet, so that you don't have to leave the experience of the application. You don't have to be interrupted and go and confirm that this is something you really want to sign, and it becomes a broken experience. And so the ephemeral key, you can think of it as your temporary pass to spend your tokens from within the application.
Great. And I just want to pull up this image here. So now, let me pull it up again. It disappeared. Just to explain the graphic that we have on Medium. So Ben, does the user themselves assign a temporary key in ephemeral key?
So the idea, the idea is that as a user, even if you understand crypto, you don't want to necessarily be writing down private keys, and we should never copy them for sure. So the app itself would generate a new private key, and then the user who holds the ownership keys would authorize and say, the same way that you would log into web.whatsapp.com, for people that know, you would maybe scan the QR code with your wallet, and then say like, yes, this is a key I want to log into. With that authorization, you've now given authorization for the app to spend on your behalf, but it does need to go through the token holder contract, right? So the token holder contract is effectively your representation holding your money on the chain. And so each time you would authorize a key, you put the public key into the token holder contract so that it knows that within the bounds set, this key can spend your tokens. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So last, I guess, question for me here is that if it was a regular crypto wallet, only the user with the private key, which is the owner, can sign a transaction. So with this, they can assign that ephemeral key for a transaction to be done, but not by that individual.
So it's one individual, right? But the individual has a wallet, and it has an Unsplash app, for example, and then you don't necessarily want to store your value directly in the Unsplash app because that's built by a company, and you don't want to necessarily trust that. So there's just a separation of the long-term storage of value and ownership, and then the session-based usage of those tokens. And it's a token holder contract that binds them together. There's also an additional point that's quite interesting. Normally, if you are interacting on a blockchain, you have to pay transaction costs for that. And the token holder contract and the setup we've worked out here allows also that the company pays for your transactions. So that as a user, you don't have to be worrying about funding the transaction and making sure that they pass. All those things can be automated for the user, and you don't have to spend it. It's also paid for.
Good. And to your point where you shouldn't have a company manage your tokens, is it comparable? Is it okay to say, say as a metaphor, as storing crypto on an exchange versus a hardware wallet or a cold storage?
Yeah. So for example, the token holder contracts and the OST wallet would be compatible with having a hardware wallet, right? Whereas you don't necessarily always want to pull out your hardware wallet when you're in an application, and that's why we have the ephemeral keys, the session-based keys, so that you can say with your hardware wallet, yes, I want Unsplash to be able to spend my Unsplash tokens within the app when I'm liking or purchasing photos, you want to be able to protect your really valuable keys away from your everyday use within the app, where it's easier to compromise them.
Great, and thank you all of you for tackling sort of this concept. And for those of you watching live, if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat. Now let's move over to TokenRules Contract, to a TokenRules Contract Pro. Can you discuss what a TokenRules Contract is and how it's different from custom rules?
Token rules, custom rule is in a way single action in the token economy. So like airdropping or escrow contract, those are like an example of the custom rules. And token rules is going to keep, and like token economy managers are going to register the custom rules, which are the business logic for the application, into the token rules contract. And token rules contract will be responsible for token transfers. So basically, any type of token transfer in between economy actors should happen through the token rules. And it's designed in a way that any time before executing a rule, token holder is going to allow token rules to spend on behalf of the user some amount of the money. So that's why the only way that the token can be transferred between economy actors are going to happen in a token rules.
Great. So these the TokenRules contract in OpenST 0.9.4, how does that represent a decentralized role design? So this introduces a decentralized role design. Can you sort of explain how that is represented?
Yeah. So you have two parties in this, right? So on the one hand, you have an application, whether it's more of a mainstream application or it's a decentralized application that wants to design the specific behavior of the token, but in an open way. And on the other hand, you have the user who wants to have the sole power to spend its token, so wants to own the keys, but within this application. And so at the core of OpenST was really, how do you make it easy for application developers to design specific incentives for their application without having to worry about security, without having to worry about key management for their users, without having to build all sort of the cogs that would go into getting to the point where you actually design the incentives for your application. Because we really want to build a framework where, as an application designer, developer, you can focus on your users and you can think about what is the best way for your users to interact and grow this token economy. And so what the OpenST framework and 0.9.4 release accomplishes is that we balance those two interests, right? On the one hand, it's the application developer who can say, with TokenRules contract, these are the actions you can do with the token. And remember that as a foundational rule, it is always possible for the user to get back to the underlying value. That's sort of rule number 0 that the app developer cannot block. But then on top of that, he can now specify very specific rules. For example, if it's like a Quora.com, then he might want that if the user asks a question, that he can also put up a bounty, what we call an escrow. So he puts forward the price for answering the best question, and then it's known by the smart contract, and it's kept in the smart contract, this price for the best answer. And so he can design these rules in a decentralized way, right? Because all the rules are now on-chain. There is no trusting the central party, but it's also open, and that's why the token holder contract is there. That's the other balance in this equation, is where the user is the sole owner of his keys and the sole owner of his tokens, and only a valid signature from the user can can interact with the rules that were designed by the application developer. And so we have these two contracts. The token holder represents the user, and the token rules that represents the application developer and the business logic of that application. So for example, maybe to if you'll allow me, like, why does an application developer want this, right? If I am a health app and I create my health token, then I probably do not want that you can go buy at McDonald's a Big Mac with my health token. Maybe that's a weird example, but you would want to say these are the things you can do with it and not other things. Except, of course, that the user can always get to the underlying value of the tokens. But without a constraint and without the context of the application, it's not really a utility token, right? So the utility is really defined by the context of the application. It wouldn't be a health token if you can buy McMax with it. Not to point at one specific conglomerate.
Yeah, I think one example that I saw, either maybe it was on the Medium post or an internal discussion, was the comparison of making users having to interact with the economy before cashing out tokens with an airdrop. Does that sort of pertain to the same thing as a token rule?
Maybe Kedar or Rachin, you want to talk about airdrop?
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, so airdrop can be one example of a custom rule which can be registered in a token rule. So whenever a user signs up, let's say, to an app, and the policy of that application is to the new user, you have to airdrop some, let's say, 100 tokens or something like that. So as soon as the sign up is done, the token holder of the contract for that user will be deployed, and the ephemeral key for that device will be authorized in it. And after that, there will be a execute rule which will be called from the company. Some tokens will be passed to the token holder contract of this new user.
So one of the ways what we are suggesting is that whenever a custom rule is executed, each rule can then check with an actor called a budget holder, which holds all the airdrop value, and check with it if the user has any airdrop tokens that he can utilize before spending them. And whenever that happens, whenever the custom rule is executed, they can ask the budget holder that, okay, you need to transfer this token holder this much amount, so that token holder can then perform the action. So this whole custom logic of building the rules says that they initiate or actually inform the budget holder to fund the token holder before the token holder executes an action. This all can be coded into custom rules, and being a safe sandbox and being limited in spending power, it will always ensure that not too much value or not more than authorized value can get transferred from the token holder from using the complete flow.
Yeah. So to summarize, as an application developer, you can write your own rules, and so one of them is to jumpstart your economy, right? Because if no one in your application, if you already have an existing user base, then and you introduce tokens new to this application, then they wouldn't have any. And so one rule that we've built with 0.9.4 and that we'll now decentralize in the contract is that as a new user, you might not actually have tokens yourself, but the first time you spend, you actually automatically get tokens that are paid for by the company, so they have value, and you would automatically get them from the contract when you spend. But the rule here would be that these tokens can only be cashed out for dollars, or well, OST in this case, after being spent once within the economy. Because otherwise people could just create accounts and cash out. And so So by putting this on the contract that the money needs to circulate once within the economy, it's a very nice tool for an application developer to jumpstart its economy and really reward, for example, big contributors in the community with tokens that are coming out of some marketing budget. But the condition is that these users need to spend it first to other users within the economy, so that the economy gets going.
Great. So, Rachin, I think you discussed the process a little bit already, a little bit prior of how this works. In our Medium, we have this image that represents both the token holder contract and the token rules contract. So, do you think you can sort of walk us through what the process is like for a transaction?
Could you explain a bit about?
Yeah. So let's take a scenario. Let's take an example app in which there are, let's say, 3 kinds of actions in it. There is an upvote wherein a user can upvote other users' content, like photo or post, whatever. The second action is a reward, wherein the company can reward users for their contributions on their platform. And let's say the third action is a download, wherein the user can buy some e-asset from the company. So in this example scenario, how 0.9.4 will help us to implement this?
Yeah, so essentially we have taken, we have actually broken down the type of transactions. So there are 3 kind of transactions that happen in any app. They are company to user, user to user, or user to company. These are 3 examples where upvote is kind of user to user, and reward is from company to user, and then download is from user to company. Now, what happens in this scenario is there are 3 custom rules that are deployed. One is upvote, reward, and download. The token rules contract would then provide the APIs to anyone who wants to take part in the economy. Now, since the API is there, the API can be, whenever the app boots up, it will fetch these APIs from the token rules contract. Whenever a user performs an action, what internally would happen is that the ephemeral key would use these APIs to construct a transaction hash and then sign it, saying this is the custom rule I want to execute. Then this would reach to the company or to Git, wherein a facilitator would pick up this transaction and then send it on to the token holder, saying that this is the signature and this is what the user wants to execute. Over there, the token holder would validate the signature, would look at the inputs, and would also confirm if the nouns are correct or not. Or with all the security measures in place, then finally it would execute the custom rule, be it upvote or reward. In the custom rule, there would be validations like, is this from the valid economic players? For example, is it from user economic user type of economy user or company economy user? And then with all these validations that happen, these custom rules will then contain that how many tokens should be transferred from actor A to actor B, whether it's 10 BT or 100 BT based on the type of the tool. Then this custom rule would finally call onto the token rules contract saying that, okay, this is what needs to be done. And token rules would finally perform a transfer from on the ERC20 where the tokens would actually finally transfer. So that is how is explained.
Great, and thank you for explaining that in the 3 different types of transactions: user to user, company to user, and company to company. And for those of you watching live, if you have any questions, feel free to join in the chat. So Rachin, thank you for explaining that for us. And also the Medium post, if you guys want to check that image out again, it's linked down in the description below.
Sorry, Jose, can you pull that image back up?
Let me.
But if so on the user on the left hand from her device, she will sign explicitly what the action is she wants to do, and that will be given to her token holder contract, right? And so it will verify that this is her signature, and it will only do exactly what she asked. And on the other side of this flow, there all the way at the end was the TokenRules contract, which is sort of the ability for the application to say which rules are active, and to be allowed to spend within the economy. But an important point that I wanted to highlight is that what we've also set out here is that we provide with OpenST 0.9.4 now these two contracts, the token holder and the TokenRules contract. And in the middle, application developers can write their custom rules. We've also designed it this way so that that it is easier to write correct rules, because writing smart contracts is still hard. And so these two contracts, the token holder first and then the TokenRules contract at the end, they're sort of boilerplate contracts. They provide the framework, but they also provide somewhat additionally secured. You still need to be attentive as a smart contract developer. It's not an easy job, but the outset was really also to give a sandbox environment where thousands of application developers can really experiment with writing just the core pieces of their logic, and it's secured from both ends, so that we really allow thousands of new developers to innovate and experiment with custom smart contract rules, so that the whole space can grow and can learn what are good incentives, what works well, what doesn't work well, and trying to minimize as best as we can potential errors in the code. And that's why these two sort of contracts are sandwiching these custom rules left and right, both to protect the user and both to protect also the company when it's experimenting with these new rules.
Great, and I hope for the viewers, I hope this helps clear up the images and the technical process and how it works. This has definitely helped me understand it more. So the next thing that we're gonna discuss about is OpenST.js. And Kedar and Rachin, you guys were involved with OpenST.js. Can you tell us about what it's all about?
So OpenST.js is a library that helps developer integrate the functionality to the OpenST contracts in their dApps. It simplifies development of token holder contracts, token rules contracts, and custom rules in general. It helps them to register the rule contract with token rules contract, and the execution of the provided custom rule to perform that needs to be performed by the participants. So when developing OpenST.js, we had a clear, let's say, developers in mind. We expected these developers to be a bit of hands-on with Web3 and keeping in line with the community. We didn't want to introduce new standards. We want to carry out similar to our layer 2, as our protocol is layer 2. Similarly, we have this OpenST.js, which is the layer 2 library over Web3.js, which provides easy deployment of these contracts and easy execution of these contracts. There are some challenges around signing the transaction. The ephemeral key that will sign the transaction, it wouldn't be a traditional transaction or RLP-based encoded transaction. It is more EIP 1077 transaction, and these are the kind of things that are not yet into Web3.js, but we have extended Web3.js to provide this facility so that users can easily sign using OpenST.js. We have made it easy for them to get any custom rule just based on the rule names. And all in all, this is a starting point, and as and when the community gives the feedback, we are sure to look at it and work on that. So this is more an interaction layer library. So yeah, that's where I should have started. But so this is more of an interaction layer library that sits on your application, be it a dApp or be it a centralized app, and that will help you to interact with the OpenST protocol in general.
And there's also Open.js examples. Can you walk us through of what some of these examples are?
Right. So OpenST.js examples is a repository wherein we have given small, means easy to use command line of examples wherein you can call. Let me give some examples of what all commands you can execute here. So using OpenST.js examples, what you can do is you can deploy all your OpenST contracts, namely TokenRules, the TokenHolder contract, any custom rule you can deploy, and you can register this custom rule into the TokenRules contract, and then you can, if you have an ephemeral key with you, you can authorize this ephemeral key into the multisig TokenHolder contract, and uh, after it is authorized, you can execute any custom rule which is registered in the token rules. So basically, the examples repository helps you wrap your head around how you're going to actually program things with OpenST.js. For example, you would need your own ERC20 token. So we're given a deploy mock token example wherein a mock token named token is deployed. If you look into the code, it's very simple, and it clearly tells you how to use OpenST.js to achieve that. Now, all these JS examples that we have given are executable from command line, and they take in command line arguments. So we also tell how to deploy TokenRules contract or custom rule contract. We say in our case we do a transfer rule with the generic deploy contract.js. Then we have a register rule.js, which tells you how you would use OpenST.js to register the rule. Then we have got create ephemeral key and easy way to create ephemeral keys whenever you need them. Then you need to propose the ephemeral key and authorize the ephemeral keys. And all these examples take you step by step in understanding how you would go about using OpenST.js. So once you go through these examples, once you have completed this, then it's up to your imagination and innovation. How would you fit your economy with this framework? Adding to that, we have given examples of how to add a wallet, how to propose a new wallet key. So in a multisig a token holder contract, if one wallet key is compromised and you want to revoke it, so that example is also shown. So
a pretty comprehensive set of examples out there.
We have tried to cover as many interactions as possible. Yeah.
And we're looking forward to community's feedback. If there's something that they're finding tough to go about with OpenST.js, just let us know. We'll have it and examples.
Right. Exactly. So the audience here is really the developer community, both our existing ones, but also new ones. And so we felt that it was important that as we release OpenST.js, which is an SDK for interacting with the framework we've built, that it was very helpful to give usage examples. So developers can go through it. If they have questions, they can see how would you tie the wires together, right? And so that's really why I put very nice effort to that. I can say that because I didn't do the hard work, so I consider it a very nice effort.
Great. So essentially the OpenST.js examples shows the capabilities of what a developer can do with OpenST, such as adding wallets to users. It just shows everything they can do, but it's up to the developer to pick and choose like which executions best fit their economy.
Exactly.
Great.
We welcome people building on it. We'll also incentivize that going forward.
Yeah.
And then where can they find this? They can find it on our GitHub.
Yeah, so all the code is always open source, and it's on github.com OpenST Foundation. The repositories in question here are OpenST OpenST-contracts for all the smart contracts, OpenST.js for the interaction layer Kedar and Rachin described, and then OpenST-js-examples, if I'm not mistaken, is where you will find an extensive README and the code for how you would do certain pieces of the framework, and then you can learn more there how to use it.
Great. And then I'll link down a link to the developer tools after the call or on the podcast as well. It'll be down in the description below. Ben, so 0.9.4 is part of OST's project infrastructure workstream. Can you tell us a little bit about what types of tools and experiences OST will use 0.9.4 in regards to building tools for our partners?
Yeah, so I mean, it's called OpenST Foundation, as I said, and we started OpenST a year ago as Open Simple Token, and it was really the idea to have a framework for making it very easy to design your own token and to build token economies. We really want to have hundreds and thousands of new token economies built on Ethereum, and so we saw that there was a lot of infrastructure that needed to be in place. And so 0.9.4 is a contained framework. You could run it on Ethereum testnets without anything. So you can run it on Ethereum mainnet, you can run it on Ethereum Rinkeby or Ropsten. You can run it also on our own testnets, our own utility chains. And to that point, it's where we've been working hard on the Mosaic protocol. OpenST.js will natively integrate the scaling proposal of Mosaic early next year when we put that into alpha as well. So if you build on OpenST.js, then it will naturally inherit the scalability solutions that we're building under OpenST Mosaic as well. And then going up the stack, there's a sort of the OpenST protocol is really sort of the pivotal point around which we build everything. So it's very important now that we, as summarizing it again, that the users own their own crypto wallets, but in a good UX, with a good UX, and that all the token interactions are on chain and developers can write their own. What we will do is integrate this into Kit and into api.ost.com. And really build out also a standard set of libraries of incentives that we have seen work well for given use cases, for given verticals, and that developers can use, and even business people can go through Kit and with a simple UI, see the analytics of their economy, select new incentives, and it would auto deploy these contracts, and users could and allow their developers to integrate it into the app. With relation to our next steps, of course, it's very interesting now for us to use and to see how our close partners can use the ability to write their own smart contracts to their specific business cases, and we'll look forward to supporting them there as well. And building out these first custom token rules for different use cases. So that will be very exciting. At least I'm excited by that. Yeah.
Great. And community feedback, as well as our partners, is very important to help enhance this. And for those watching or any developers out there listening to this podcast, feel free to check out our developer tools and become part of OST and help us build out this technology. So I'm just going to pull up the roadmap here to sort of overview what we have done and where we're at. So we've come a long way from 2017, everything from OST kit R&D to the beginning of the OpenST protocol, and now we're down to Q4 of 2018. And the next thing is OpenST Protocol 0.9.5. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about what that will include, or do we know yet of what's next?
So with 0.9.5, we're aiming to incorporate improvements, stabilizations, also security audits of the new code. So we make it a habit of thoroughly auditing all the things we've written so far, and that's and that will now also happen for 0.9.4. And then we want to harden that framework to move it on to Ethereum mainnet early next year. And so that's really the focus of 0.9.5, is to start eating our own dog food. 0.9.4 that we now built, the token economy framework, help our partners build it out, and secure it further, and have it audited, improve it for use on actual first deployments with super users of the partners that we have, right? So maybe 10,000 users, but in blockchain land, that's already a very, very big group. Really trying out actual use cases on real applications with real users. So that's where we head for next, end of this year, beginning of next year.
Great. And for the users, we updated the roadmap to include our milestone of 0.9.4. It's in the Medium post, the same one as the update about 0.9.4. And for the developers, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to check us out on the podcast apps, Spotify, iTunes, CastBox, and we're also now on the Amazon Alexa, so you can listen to us on your daily flash briefing. And yeah, Ben, Pro, Rachin, and Kedar, thank you guys for joining us on this Friday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
All right.